Hello, and thank you to the GW4 for inviting me to present my research to you today. We're going to be talking about the topic of widening research, and my name is Eoin Cremen. I'm a university student at Bath University with the Art AI CDT, and my supervisors are Yanina Hoffman as my primary supervisor, and I've got Harish Tyre Matabushi as my secondary, and Konstantinos Katsukopoulos as my external, and I'd just like to acknowledge their contribution to this as well so far. So my vision for the PhD is that by the end of it we will have an AI support tool for decision makers. This support tool is based on the premise of deburdening humans from having to take on roles that are challenging for us. So think about the devil's advocate classic role in which we challenge each other's ideas to consider alternatives, and this can be hard to enact to the best ability in real life because we have things like interpersonal relationships, hierarchies, the will to conform, or the avoidance of conflict. And the idea is that by having an AI perform these type of tasks and provide suggestions in these roles, we can have a more effective decision-making process. I come from a medical background. I'm a physiotherapist by trade, and I think there's great value in this from a medical decision-making point of view that could potentially improve the process in which doctors are making decisions in hospitals, which hopefully would confer downstream positive effects for patients, which I think is something that's worthwhile looking at. So from a theoretical background, we can discuss that in the discussion at the end if we'd like to, but we're going to move on and keep focusing on the widening research approach. Just to quickly touch on my research questions, so what I'm looking at is the effect of algorithmic advice on the individuals who are performing this decision-making task I'm going to show you. And then I've got different types of advice, and I want to see how they affect the decision-making strategies and accuracies in different ways. And these aims then are to examine this advice and also measure the change from an accuracy and a strategy point of view. So widening research, and this starts with the design of the project. So it comes off the back of an original research project by Illingworth and Thomas, and that was available in the Open Science Framework. And having it available in the framework meant that I had access to their code and their data, and that enabled me to develop and build upon it, which is a great starting point for a research project from my view. And what we could then also do is look at replicating the protocol, and that would give us one of a number of things, which includes being able to examine whether our results are keeping in line with what we might expect to see from the original study, but also developing upon that from a broader database. My contribution to this cycle then has been to upload and pre-register my study details in as great a depth as possible so that future students and academics can reproduce my work and build upon that in succession. So then talking about the reproducibility of the study, which is a hot topic in itself in psychology and should be of interest to the scientific community around the robustness of our experiments. I've been able to compare our results so far. So this is a very similar amount of participants. I've collected 60 odd and their final was 52. So what we can see so far is the trends are very similar. I won't go into what the data is about in particular, but safe to say that it encourages us that we're on the right track in terms of the data we're collecting, and it also reinforces that this is a phenomenon that is reproducible. And what we can also look at is the numbers of data points we now have, which is doubled from the original study, and by hopefully the completion of my data collection we might have tripled that, which is hopefully a productive result from a scientific point of view as well for future. The experiment, to briefly go over it, we're going to be looking at a medical diagnosis task. So what the participants must do is they are given a fictitious patient and with fictitious diseases, and the patient presents with a certain ailment, and the participants must use information from tests they request, so medical tests, to help assist them with making a diagnosis. All the information is formulated and fictitious. There's no actual patient data within this. As an example of some of the tests they can request are the CAT scan, MRI, X-ray and lab tests. They can have different positive, neutral and negative results, and depending on the combination of these tests, what the presenting problem the patient has, the idea is for the participants to learn about the relationship between these interacting factors and what is the most likely diagnosis based on feedback when they input and submit their diagnosis. So in phase 2, this changes slightly in the experiment, and what I've introduced then for a second part of phase 2 is an AI advice component. So in phase 2, the participants must select the tests to reveal them, and my AI advice is looking at their previous test selection behavior and suggesting them and encouraging them to consider different ones or consider the same ones based on which type of advice is being used, which is being randomized in the study itself. So our study design is repeated measures within subjects. Our first 2 phases are similar to what was done in the past, and then the third phase is where I introduce the AI advice. So we will have some repeated data that will be comparative to what's been done before, which we can also reproduce some of the analyses, and then we've got some quite a lot of new data which we can push on, develop our understanding of how humans take advice and the role of advisors within these type of decision making tasks. So then going back to our open research approach, from an academic loop, we're starting to tie this back around again. So we've seen how we've been able to take on previous existing work and develop upon it. We've pre-registered our work and enabled future researchers to do the same as what we have done. We will have a big database to upload as well, which will expand upon what's existing and develop upon the sort of richness and the different types of data that's going to be in there. We have code that is new and progressing on the original experiment as well. And we have this role of advice, which is an AI, which is topical at the moment and is hopefully on the edge of what is interesting from applied practice and will be valuable for people to take on into their practicing work. And then we've also got this question mark of what's available for the future, what will future students be doing with the work we've done in the past as well. So hopefully this brings together a cycle of open research. Beyond academia, like I said, very strongly in favour of producing work that will have applied benefit and a real world impact. I've got my code currently up on GitHub, which will be updated as and when. We'll be targeting open access for our publications, and then in our last year of the research, in my last project, I'm going to be bringing it to practicing medical teams to examine how they work with this type of AI and seeing can we begin to transition from the laboratory and experimental space into the applied space and start to see if we can really make a difference in applied practice as well, which will then hopefully bring people from outside our academic bubble into the space of the research we've done and look at how we can apply it to different contexts and hopefully continue to reach out to different use cases and different people interested in learning about what we've done, but also taking advantage of the support they can gain from the output of my PhD. So that brings me to the end of the talk. Thank you very much for listening, and any questions or feedback would be greatly appreciated. Thank you.